G'day everyone, this is Malts with Mates returning again. I'm some whiskey bloke and my guest today is Sean Scully of Clonakilty Distillery in Ireland. He's actually stationed over in the States at the moment. Sean, mate, how you going?
Good, Marcus. How you doing?
Yeah, pretty good, you know. Weather's been okay here in Dublin. Bit overcast today, but we've had some nice sun. How about yourself?
Yeah, good, lads. Pretty much exactly the same here. It's kind of dull now today. It was 28 degrees there over the weekend, so
Oh,
a bit of everything over here, similar to Ireland.
you're teasing us when you say 28 degrees, because
I
I
know.
think Dublin's reached a max of maybe like 21, 22 over the last few weeks. I don't know for sure, but 28 would be something I'd kill for. That'd be amazing.
Honestly, it's too hot for me. I'm praying for kind of 20 degrees weather is perfect for me, but 28 degrees is a bit too hot.
You know, often people do ask me why I moved from Australia to Scotland and then to Ireland, and it's nothing to do with the weather. I can promise you that.
Yeah, fair enough.
Oh, anyway, so Sean, what are you drinking today?
I'm actually not going to drink at all because it's only 12 o'clock in Portland, so trying to remain sensible, I suppose. I was contemplating having a small little tipple of our double oak here. I have a couple of bottles around me. I'm not going to drink them. We have a double oak, we have a port cask finish, so a couple of different things. But I'm trying to stay off the booze this early because if I start now, I won't do anything for the rest of the day.
No, I can definitely understand that. I'm drinking one of yours. I'm drinking the port cask
Right.
tonight, and I love the port cask. I was a little bit annoyed that the shop I went to was out of your single grain, the Bordeaux wine cask finish, because that one is absolutely stunning.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, no, it's a really high quality single grain, so it's something different we have in the market. Yeah.
Oh yeah, fantastic. So for people who don't know you and don't know Clonakilty, could you tell us about a bit about the distillery, the brand, and also about yourself?
Yeah, so I suppose I'll start with myself. So I am the brand ambassador over here in Portland, Oregon right now. So yeah, just running things in Oregon at the minute. Hopefully, kind of moving up towards Washington State and maybe do a bit of work in California in the future. So that's what I'm now. I previously was brand ambassador for Clonakilty Distillery in Dublin for about the last year or so before I moved out here. And it's my parents actually started Clonakilty Distillery. That kind of runs the whole business, I suppose. And then my mom kind of runs the gin side of things, our Minky Gin. So yeah, so Clonakilty Distillery is we're a new distillery based out in Clonakilty, West Cork, and yeah, just opened our doors about a year or so ago, maybe a year and 2 months. Very much kind of like a maritime distillery. Trying to do things differently, growing our own grains, being transparent, all the kind of stuff.
No, it's fantastic, and it must have been a huge change up to go from Dublin, because even though Dublin's the capital of Ireland, going from Dublin to Oregon and taking care of Oregon, California, you must have so many more places that you see.
Yeah, it was a big change. Well, it was also, I had never lived in Dublin before at all, so it was great to kind of get to know the city a bit more. And we weren't in Dublin. We had no presence in Dublin when I moved up there, so that was kind of exciting as well to build the brand, from nothing to something, hopefully. And then I moved out here
Mm.
where I've actually lived before, so I was very familiar with the area here. I've studied here for a year down in Oregon State. I actually worked for a distillery here as well. But again, kind of going through the same process, we had no foothold in the market here initially, obviously. So building that from scratch is something I enjoy doing, just getting out there, spreading the word about Irish whiskey in general, and also our own products.
All right. And I know America's also got a lot of people with Irish heritage. How is Irish whiskey taken kind of the world, America at the moment? Are people receptive to it, or is it more they prefer Scotch or bourbon?
That's an interesting question. I saw, obviously Oregon's now, it's just above California. It's pretty far away from Ireland itself, as opposed to people on the East Coast. A lot of them may have been to Ireland. Most people, haven't been to Ireland over here in Oregon or met an Irish person. So they're pretty intrigued to hear more about Irish whiskey. Their knowledge isn't that bad, honestly. People tend to like their spirits over here and want to learn about where they come from and how they're made, all that kind of stuff. And funnily enough, what surprised me, I saw some stats. It was about 6 years ago. Oregon is the closest. Irish whiskey sales is the closest to overtaking Scotch in Oregon, and that's the highest rated state, which is surprising. You'd think it'd be somewhere like Boston that would sell the most Irish whiskey compared to Scotch, but it's actually Oregon. So hopefully we can overtake Scotch sales in the next year or so.
Well, that's fantastic. And with you there, I'm sure you can see that happening in Oregon and then heading down into California and then go east from there.
Yeah,
It's great to see. So, whiskies have got a long history in Ireland, and over the last 10 years, we've seen this explosion within Irish whiskey in Ireland and around the world. Can you tell us about the choices to open up Clonakilty Distillery?
Yeah, for sure. So I suppose the whole idea came about 5 or 6 years ago. At this stage, we only opened a year ago, so these things don't happen overnight. But the realization came that we're based in Clonakilty, obviously, so that we're a maritime town. We're farmers by trade, my family originally as well. So my dad's the 8th generation family farmer. If myself, my brother, and my sister decides to take over, we'll be the 9th. So we kind of realized we have this farm where we can grow our own grains. It's a dairy farm. We realized we can make our gin from the dairy from our cows. So we have that traceability aspect. We have a beautiful landscape right on the ocean by the Galley Head where we grow our own grains. So we realized we can grow our grains there. Be very unique. How the wind or the sea salts, the sea air actually affects the barley as it grows, and that soil, which is very much affected by that kind of maritime environment. And we also have the knowledge to grow our own grains because we are farmers as well. So we're growing our own heritage barley for a very limited release, which we'll hopefully have out. We'll start making it probably at the end of this year, and it'll be out maybe in 4, 5, 6 years time, hopefully. So that's gonna be something different that we're doing.
No, that's great. It sounds like from that you want to take your time and see how the whiskey evolves in the cask. You're not looking to make a whiskey that's 3 years old and immediately bottle it. I've been down to the distillery, and it is stunning. It's absolutely amazing. For those who've not been down, by all means, it's a fantastic visit. Can you tell us a bit about the setup that the distillery has?
Yeah, sure. So the distillery itself is in the actual town of Clonakilty. So it's the waterfront building. So the building was actually built in '07, I think, and it was originally built to be a regional headquarters for a bank. And obviously the crash happened then in '08. The building went into receivership. It actually became like Whale Skull for about 2 or 3 years, I think it was. And then it was laying idle for a while. So, the original plan for the distillery was actually maybe put the distillery in the farm. But then we realized, it's kind of out in the middle of nowhere. Can tourists get to it and all that kind of stuff? And we saw this building and it fit us perfectly. You've seen the stills, they're like raised above ground level, right on the Wild Atlantic Way. We have a whole tourist centre there, gift shop, restaurant, the whole lot, so it fit us perfectly. So that's where the distillery is. And then our where we actually mature our whiskey is out about 5 miles more towards the coast. It's literally bang on a cliff. I don't know if you got out to the warehouse at all. You probably didn't.
I think I did months and months ago, perhaps.
Yeah. Well, it's very much it's on the farm itself. So we wanted to put it as close to the ocean as possible to kind of again similar to where we grow our grains, have that kind of maritime environment interacting with the casks. It's a pretty kind of volatile environment, lots of changes in temperature and all that. So we're hoping the casks will be affected by that kind of that sea air again, but also within that volatility of temperatures and all that kind of stuff.
That's fantastic. And when you do produce your whiskey, are you looking more for a malt distillery, a single pot still, a grain, or are you going to try and mix everything and have a wide variety?
We're going to try, our main whiskies are definitely going to be single pot stills. So that's what we're going to come out with. We actually sent out some sampling kits through Top Dram last week, and there was some of the new make in that three bottle sampling kit, and everyone seemed to love the new make. It just won best Irish new make as well at the World Whiskey Awards. So that'll be our main focus, will be single pot stills, but we'll definitely keep some of the blended whiskies in circulation as well. We have our single grain as well, which you said you wanted to get a bottle of, and we'll probably, we're open to anything,
No, that's fantastic. And right now, as I understand, you're independently bottling. You started with a few lines, but you've been rapidly expanding. What went into the choices behind, something such as the port cask, the double oak you've got in front of you, the single grain, the Bordeaux finish? What went into that?
Yeah, so we, obviously enough, most distilleries in the island now are sourcing their juice, and we're doing the same. We're very open about that, but we didn't want to just straight up bottle it. We want to put our own kind of stamp and things in our own different ways. So it's really true, like our cask finishing. We're doing some different things. We're doing different filtration methods. So we're actually not filtering the whiskey very finely at all. So originally we filtered it to like 6 to 8 microns, which is like industry standard. It stripped all the color from the whiskey. It was the port cask we worked on initially, actually. Stripped away all the color from it, lots of natural character as well. So we opened it up to 30 microns, just kept it as it should be, really, whiskey as it should be. So that's the filtration method we're using. We're also doing a different thing called the gentle cut. So it's a process of cutting down the whiskey using water from our own family farm. So it's a deep bore well, very pure water. We cut it down over about 2.5 to 3 weeks, as opposed to a couple hours. So you're slowly adding the water, a couple of liters at a time, over the 2 to 3 week period, and bringing down that ABV. So it gives it time for the molecules between the whiskey and the water to actually bind, kind of settle in together, as opposed to shocking the whiskey. And it also gives time for different kind of esters to develop as the whiskey kind of comes down in proof. Different congeners develop over time at these different proofs. So that's something our head distiller Paul feels like made a massive difference to the whiskies. So trying to do things a bit different, but we're not set on keeping things the same either. For instance, the double oak whiskey originally was called a single batch, and it was just virgin American oak. And then we found out about this Neoc cask, so new era of cask. It's a shaved and toasted Bordeaux red wine cask, and we decided to add that into our blending aspect of the double oak, and made a massive difference. Bumped it up from a silver medal to a double gold medal, and won Best Blended Irish Whiskey at the World Whiskey Awards.
Well, I'm not surprised about that. I mean, all your whiskey is fantastic. I wasn't aware that you'd made the change to your double oak, but it's fascinating to hear. And then regarding as well, you've released some distillery exclusives, a 15-year-old cognac cask, and I believe there's a fill your own. Can you tell us a bit about those?
They are just available at the gift shop itself. To be honest, I haven't tried much of them now, to be honest. But there's not many in circulation. Our single grain Bordeaux cask was actually one of those original gift shop exclusives. Then we released it on Irish Malts, and it sold really well. So that became part of our one of our regular SKUs. And we're selling that out here in the States right now. But we've about 6 or 7 different expressions now, I think, on the market in general. One of the things we're doing out here was we're doing brewery collaborations. So I don't know if you can see this now properly. It's a Pelican. So Pelican Brewing is a brewery out here in Oregon, and we're pairing up with those guys and finishing off our whiskey in their English barley wine casks. So we shipped over 4 of those casks to Ireland from here just before Christmas. Put our whiskey in it. Obviously takes on all those kind of beautiful toffee, kind of sweet notes, a bit of chocolate coming. And then we put the special label on it, send it back to Oregon. So we're doing that in states like we've already released two over in Connecticut with New England Brewing Company, Roy Pitts, Pennsylvania, 26 Degrees Brewing in Florida, Revival in Rhode Island. So we're trying to, every state we're in Oregon or in the US, we're trying to do one of these brewery collaborations. So it's great because it gets our name out there in the market.
Yeah, that's absolutely fantastic. Do you get to? Sorry, Ed Miller has just commented and said he loves barley wine. Fascinating. Good to see you, Ed. No, it's absolutely outstanding that you guys are trying to go through the entirety of the US, and so you'll have 50 different of those, if not the Pelican, 50 different barley wine or beer casks at the end of it. Is it arduous to transport it to Ireland for the finishing and then back to the States for the sale?
Yeah, it's obviously expensive. The casks can dry out pretty fast, so we have to, we're not sending them on a ship. We're air freighting them over, so they don't dry out. And it's a lot of with customs and stuff. It can be a hassle sometimes, but it's well worth it to get our name out there. And yeah, it's something different and unique as well that kind of gets our name out there in the market. Yeah, 50 states. We're in about, I think, so 12, 13 states right now, and we expanded into those states pretty fast. We've only been on the market here about a year and a half. So I think we're kind of going to slow down on the expansion, go deeper into all the states we're in right now. So, in time we'll have 50 states, but that won't happen overnight for sure.
But a dozen states in the time you've been there is nothing to turn your nose up at. That sounds absolutely fantastic. In terms of Irish whiskey that you're seeing over there, obviously you're in quite a few states at the moment. Do you see many whiskies outside of the really big players making it to Ireland, or does it tend to be just the big boys making it to the States? Sorry.
Yeah, I'm obviously focused on Oregon a lot. There are a lot of craft. I've seen some like Tipperary whiskies out here, stuff like that. Hyde. I think Oregon gets overlooked a small bit because a lot of people don't know it that well, and they try to focus on the East Coast. But there's a very good Irish whiskey selection over here. Obviously, the big boys dominate it, but there are some smaller producers as well.
That's fantastic. Ed is asking as well. He missed the connection between why you would be in Oregon. Is it just the Irish connection? But I believe you did explain earlier. Do you just want to explain it again?
Myself, is it why I'm here?
Yeah. Why specifically Oregon?
Yeah. So I studied in UCC originally, and I had the option to study abroad for my third year in college. I ended up going to Oregon State. Funny enough, I actually thought I applied for University of Oregon, which is a very different college here in Oregon, and ended up going to Oregon State. It was great. It was the best thing that ever happened to me. So I spent a year there, fell in love with the state, the people here. And then I came back. I went home, graduated from UCC, came back and worked for a small distillery here called Trail Distilling in Portland for a year. And that's when I went back to Dublin for a year, and now I'm back here again. So it's kind of been flip-flopping between Oregon and home in Ireland for the last couple of years. But yeah, it's great here. People are very much similar. They're pretty easygoing people here, and as we spoke about earlier, the weather is very similar as well. So I like it.
That is fantastic. I had a question there. It's gone. So being over in the States, you must have the opportunity to try so many bourbons, American whiskies. Have you clued onto any that you really love, that you really enjoy, or anything you think this is something that I should take to Ireland? To
be honest, I haven't really dove that deep into bourbons and the likes. One product that I've really fell in love with over here, there's a distillery called Ransom Distillery in Portland. They're not in Portland, they're in Oregon. Their Emerald whiskey actually won Best Irish Whiskey a couple of years ago, I think, which is controversial. But they have an Old Tom gin, so it's an Old Tom gin aged in, I think it's bourbon casks, but there's no sugar added, and it's really, really good. That's something I've been kind of pushing back home. This is something that we should maybe think about doing. But it's it's kind of a niche market, but I love it because it's kind of a hybrid gin. whiskey gin mix.
Oh, it's fantastic. I do know the guys Ransom. And the Emerald, I wasn't aware they won Best Irish Whiskey. I feel like I read somewhere that they
Hot still, wasn't it?
either make a single pot still, or yeah, they make a single pot still, or they won Best Single Pot Still, something like
I
that.
think they won best single pot still or something like that. So it was something along those lines. I can't remember exactly what it was, but I know it was kind of yeah, kick up the hole for the technical file and all that kind of stuff.
Well, I mean that's always something interesting. From I know we're broadcasting live, but obviously I could edit this bit out. In terms of the technical file, what's Clonakilty's stance on that? Is it something that you would love to keep as is, or would you like to change it, see some more expansion?
I suppose I can't really talk about the distillery as a whole. I know there are some distilleries that are trying to change it in different ways and want it to be changed. Personally, I'm all for kind of, I know there's some old practices like having oats and stuff like that in the whiskey that's been changed, and if that's the way it used to be, albeit, go ahead and do it, in my opinion.
Oh, no, fantastic. I mean, it's always fantastic to hear the different opinions. Then, speaking of your whiskey as well, of the range, what's the one that you generally most prefer? If you're coming home after a big day around Oregon, what do you like to have?
Probably the double oak, to be honest. That's my usual go-to. So that's the one that's finished in the Neok cask. So that would be our core whiskey. But yeah, it's really unique. And again, that Neok cask, which a lot of people, I know some distilleries are starting to use it now in Ireland. I think we were the first. It really just transformed the whiskey. Unique cask, shaved toasted, shaved and toasted or retoasted, poured over red wine cask. But I find the major differentiating thing about it is the way it's shaved. So it's actually hand planed or hand shaved, as opposed to shaved like in a rotary basis, like normally. So those shavings are a lot more clean. There's less dust, so it doesn't block the pores of the wood. And the shaves are also a bit thicker than usual, so it allows kind of for more movement between the wood and the whiskey in time. So it's it just kind of kicked on the double oak to a different level, and that's the one I'm trying.
No, it's fascinating. Yeah, I wasn't aware that you used hand shaving for those casks, and that must add a bit more time. But if it takes away that dust and adds that cleanliness, you're certainly going to see that come through in the product because the casks are going to be cleaner.
Yeah, so we don't shave it ourselves.
Sorry.
No, I said we don't shave it ourselves. It's shaved in France, but yeah, obviously when it takes longer, they're more expensive, So we're focused on quality for sure.
Oh, that's amazing to hear. So we've gone through. You've used bourbon, red wine, Bordeaux red wine. I'm unsure if those are different. Port casks, cognac casks, and you've used beer casks as well. Is there anything else you've got in the pipeline? Anything special?
Yeah. So I haven't mentioned our heritage barley, have I?
You've mentioned the heritage barley, but go through it again because
yeah. So the heritage barley.
Yeah.
Is probably the most exciting thing we're doing. So it's Goldthorpe and Hunter are the names of the strains that we're reviving. So they're typically grown, I think it was about the 1930s, but they don't yield very well. They're very affected by weather conditions, where we are out by the Gallyhead Lighthouse, bang smack in the ocean. It's pretty crazy environment there. So the winds can knock it down pretty easily. So it doesn't yield very well, and that's why it kind of went out of circulation in general use. Regards to farmers, but we decided that we wanted to kind of revive it. We literally got a couple handfuls from Teagasc of Goldthorpe and Hunter, and we sold it and harvested maybe about 4 times at this stage. We just sold it there again now the other day, a couple of weeks ago. and we'll be running that through the stills now in September. So it's yeah, it'll be exciting to see how it comes out. Like, we're not sure how it's going to taste, and all that kind of stuff, but it'll certainly be unique.
So I guess the big question there would be, why choose to go for that specific strain of barley if in that location it doesn't produce a good yield, if it's so easy for it to be blown down? What was the choice behind choosing that particular barley? Is it just because it's the heritage, or something you want to work with in particular?
No, it's not something we want to work with anyway. It's heritage. I suppose, like, being the family farm, my granddad used to grow this on the farm. So it's just kind of a thing that used to be grown, and we tend to revive it. But we're doing it in an amazing setting, right in the Galleyhead Lighthouse, where the soil has been permeated by this sea salt, sea air for centuries and centuries. So it's grown in a very kind of unique environment as well. So that'll definitely have an effect on the grain as it grows as well. And obviously the warehouse is so close to the ocean as well. That'll have effect on our new make spirit and this heritage barley. So it's something we're looking forward to seeing how it turns out.
Oh, it's fantastic. And we do have, first of all, Land Bay Irish Whiskey's actually popped in and they've said they want to wish you good luck with the barley strain. They're quite excited to see it. I think we all are. And Ed is coming in again, and I think Ed's internet has keyed out here, but he said he missed that. Where did you say you source those heritage strains? So it is on your farm, isn't it?
Well, we sourced it originally from Teagasc. That's where we got the original grains. But yeah, now we've enough to almost run through the stills. So we're just recultivating ourselves. But we're using some of our own unmalted. We're growing our own unmalted barley as well for our single pot still new make. So trying to do as much as we can ourselves,
Well, I'll make sure to when we post this later, I'll make sure to include all the links for where you source, so we're going to get all the information. It's absolutely fascinating that you're choosing to do that. I suppose that inside anything, everyone seems like they'd love to see how it would turn out. Are you hoping to get a couple of samples of the new make yourself when it's all said and done?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'll probably come home, once or twice a year max. So I'll be hoping for some of it waiting at the door when I arrive in. Yeah, I know I have a new make sample here of our single pot still. And it's about 75%. So it's pretty spicy stuff, but it's really good. And that new make winning Best Irish New Make is a good start, and hopefully that this heritage barley new make can kind of follow in the footsteps of that.
Oh, fantastic! I guess as well, it's always fantastic to hear in regarding your whiskey. How do you like to see your whiskey being consumed? Are you a purist? Do you prefer for it to be neat or on the rocks, or do you enjoy a bit of a cocktail mixed with your whiskey? How do you like to see it being done?
Personally, I wouldn't call myself a purist. Well, I drink it neat. I've been messing around with cocktails and stuff like that. I've been trying to learn a bit more about. I've never really worked in a bar properly, so I've been kind of trying to learn about all this mixology stuff. So it's been really eye-opening for me. So using the gin and the whiskey and a lot of things, do whatever you want with it. I know a lot of people out here in America, especially, drink it on the rocks. I don't do that, but if that's what you want to do, go ahead and do it.
It's fantastic. And do you have any whiskey bars close to you that you can go, or if you want to recommend any whiskey bars in Portland for when anyone comes out and visits you over in Oregon, anywhere that you'd recommend?
Yeah, the Multnomah Whiskey Library is probably the most famous whiskey bar, or definitely the most famous whiskey bar here in Portland, and up there in the States as well. So it's just a library kind of setting bar, but it's just whiskey everywhere, and plenty of choices. So that's what I recommend. It's you have to get there pretty much like 4 o'clock on the dot and be waiting outside for them to open the doors to get in. And even if, when I want to go in and talk to them about whiskey, I have to queue up there at 4 o'clock and try and get in myself as well. So it's a pretty popular spot.
No, I do recall the name, the library as well. I feel like I've read it. It's difficult to get into, but it's definitely worth it if you can. So if I ever find myself out in Portland, I'll give you a visit. I'll also have to shop in there for a quick drink.
Yeah, for sure. Give me a shout.
I guess as well, how would you like to see? Because there's a lot of things happening in the whiskey industry. This is something we've never really experienced. How do you, as a brand ambassador and someone in the whiskey industry, how do you want to see consumers supporting whiskey at this time? Is there anything we could do? Anything you could think of?
It's just keep buying it, I suppose. If you can buy it directly, I suppose is a great way of doing it. Over here, in Oregon, it's a controlled state, so the government actually runs the distribution of alcohol, and they're very strict and everything. But they actually just opened up. They just allowed distilleries to start delivering themselves directly to consumers. So that was great to see outside here for local distilleries. Obviously, they make a bit more margin on that when they're delivering themselves. So everything's adapting, and it was great to see kind of like the OLCC here, which is the governing body, kind of adapt as well when they traditionally wouldn't, and allow distilleries to deliver. And I know places in Ireland are doing that as well. We have our own gift shop now, our own online shop opened up for the distillery itself at home. So I think we're offering free delivery. So that buy straight off the consumer, I suppose, is the best way to do it, or off the producer, sorry.
No, fantastic. We definitely will. If I could somehow manage to get them to deliver one of those cognac cask whiskies they've got to my door, I think if I'd have to email anyone, I think I might email and see if we can get that done, because I'd love to taste that. That'd be amazing.
Yeah, give it a try. Shoot them on email.
I will do. I guess the big thing is, we discussed before this, I always like to do a little bit of a quiz as we're coming to the end of the podcast. And you mentioned you were a big sports fan. In particular, you love rugby, which that's good for me, because last week Mika said he liked football, and I know nothing about football. Rugby, I'm actually quite good on. Do you find, did you have the time last year? Could you find that you were able to watch the World Cup, watch the games as they were going on, or?
Yeah, so that's what I'm worried about now in the questions they're going to ask me. To be honest, like, we're 8 hours behind over here in Portland, and I'm pretty obsessed with rugby. But when you're working and the games are on at 2 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, it's pretty tough to kind of get up straight for a month and a half and watch them. So I kind of lost touch with kind of still staying in touch. But my knowledge isn't the same of most recent happenings as it used to be. Watching a lot more kind of American sports right now, football when it's on, basketball obviously as well. But there's obviously nothing happening right now. Netflix.
Yeah, I love Netflix. I think there was actually, speaking of basketball, though, I think there was a Netflix thing put up, a Netflix show about basketball and about Michael Jordan put up recently. That's a weird plug for a show that's not paying me, and I'm making no money off this. But no, you might like that yourself.
Yeah, no, I've been watching it. It's great. I think it's the most viewed documentary by ESPN ever. So it's everyone wants a bit of sports in their lives right now. So everyone's just watching that over here, and social media is blowing up over it. So it's a cool insight.
Oh, fantastic. Well, I've got a few questions here keyed up, just about some rugby, a few about American sports as well. They're pretty simple, pretty basic. Let's see how you do.
All right. Well, you're saying that now, so no pressure.
No pressure at all. All right. Who won the 2019 Rugby World Cup?
South Africa.
Yep, South Africa. It's an easy one. So, in total, 4 countries in the world have won the Rugby World Cup. Can you name the 4 countries? Can you also name the number of times those countries have won the World Cup?
Oh, Jesus. How many?
That's a bonus point if you can name the times they've won.
All right, so there's New Zealand, South Africa, England, and Australia.
You're
Is that
correct. If
right?
you hadn't got that one, I would have been really pissed off.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
disappointed you put Australia behind England. That's the worst part about all this.
That England win has been drilled into our minds, so I can't forget that one. I was just glad they didn't win last year.
Oh my God, I wanted Australia to win. First and foremost, South Africa was my second choice. England was arguably my last choice. England
Yeah,
and New Zealand are always my last two choices. And I don't want either of them to win. So I was so incredibly happy when neither of them did.
yeah,
It
that's an
really
Aussie.
made my day.
I think has England's won it once, South Africa has won it twice, Australia once, New Zealand three times.
So England's won it once. You're right there. New Zealand's won it three times. You're right there. South Africa has won it three times as well, and Australia's won it twice.
Oh, okay.
So currently, yeah, there's the tie between South Africa and New Zealand for kind of domination between the
Yeah,
sport.
yeah.
Personally, I hope South Africa beat New Zealand every single year. And obviously, South Africa beat England to win the World Cup. But can you name who South Africa and who England both beat to reach the grand final?
England beat New Zealand. South Africa beat Wales, I think.
Yeah, South Africa beat Wales. I was in Wales for that match, and I was the one person going for South Africa. I was
Yeah.
in Cardiff. That
Were
was
you just were you
that
at the
was
game?
rough. Say again?
Were you at the game?
No. I was just in a pub.
Yeah.
I can't even remember the name of the pub, but I was there for about a week or two. I was there for a bit of time to see the girlfriend, and we managed to catch a couple of games. And South Africa versus Wales was one of those games. Absolutely fantastic, stunning match. Loved every bit of it. Probably shouldn't have been supporting South Africa. Wales is my third. Wales is always my third option in rugby, though. That's the thing. But speaking of which, did you get to watch the Six Nations?
No, to be honest, I just timings here is so off. I struggle to get up early in the morning anyway. And yeah, it's tough for me to get up and watch the games. I normally catch some of the highlights and stuff like that, but yeah, it's tough. It's annoying that I miss out on so much of the stuff.
No, it is the best. Probably the worst thing you missed out on in the recent Six Nations was the fact that England screwed the pooch so incredibly hard. That was fantastic to see.
Yeah,
It was difficult to watch France do incredibly well until the game against Scotland, where they just seemed to lose all sense. That was disappointing. But watching England fail was very interesting and very fun.
yeah. No, like when I came to study here in Oregon. First of all, it was 2015, so that was when the World Cup was on back then, and I almost decided not to go study abroad because I knew the timing would be so off to watch the World Cup. So that was kind of a stupid decision to even consider to not go abroad because there you go.
No, I like that. And there is as well. I do understand. I've never managed to watch it myself, but I understand there's an America's Cup between North America and South America in rugby, and I think Argentina tend to win every single year. Aside from the last one or two cups when the states have won, would you tune in for that?
I,
Watch
I I've never even heard of that, to be honest.
I mean, give it a watch. It's I think there's Canada, America, Brazil, Argentina, Chile, Uruguay.
Yeah,
I think you've got a couple of teams that play. Canada's got a great team. Argentina's obviously got a pretty good team. Brazil's decent. The America, I'd be interested to watch America play rugby. I don't want them getting
yeah.
good. That's the main thing.
The Americans are good at sevens. They have a very good collegiate system over here. And yeah, they're great sevens players, but obviously similar to Ireland, where GA takes a lot of players away from playing the likes of rugby. American football. Imagine if all American football players are playing rugby over here. They'd have a pretty good team.
So I do have some more questions here for you. Now, I couldn't find any basketball questions that made sense. I'm sure they would have made sense to you, but I wasn't sure how to ask them. How are you with NFL?
With NFL?
Yeah.
I consider I'm a fairly good coach, but I won't speak too soon.
All right. So, which team that wear orange and brown jerseys call Cleveland home?
Cleveland Browns.
Cleveland Browns, yeah. So far, you're doing the best, by the way. You're doing the absolute best. Which one of the following is not a position in football? Is it fullback, quarterback, halfback, or double back?
Double back.
Double back is correct. I mean, just quiz aside, I've tried so often to watch American football, and every time I do, I keep thinking to myself, it's not rugby. I can't do this.
Yeah, it's different, I mean, I've been watching it for a while now, even back when I was living in Ireland. I think I started watching like 2011 or something. But I love it. I think some people think it's slow moving, but I think it's great. I mean, games take 3 hours, the bones of 3 hours to play. But I think when you like rugby, I think you'll love American football as well because of physicality.
I mean, no, I like the physicality. My problem with American football is the fact that it does take 3 hours, and I like rugby because it's quick and it's bing bang boom. Every time I've watched American football, it seems that there's an out and then they have to reset, and the reset could take 20 minutes, half an hour or something. I've got stuff to do with my day.
Yeah, no, fair enough. It's like time for the right.
All right. So, what is the name of the place on the field that you must step into to score a touchdown? Is it the TD zone, the goal, the end zone, or it doesn't have a name?
End zone.
Yeah, end zone. That is one of the few things I actually know about American football. I guess it makes sense, but every time I've ever watched a game and they've gone in, my mind goes, yeah, that's a try.
Yeah.
I think it's the try.
I mean, but it's like American football is very big over in Ireland right now, and England. There's a big following. So much so that there was talk of an American football franchise or team moving to London.
That would be interesting. I'd love to watch an American football team play a rugby team. I think that could be something. It's not GAR, but it'd be similar to GAR in the sense that you're mixing multiple sports, or you've got a lot of rules.
Yeah, international rules, GA and Aussie rules. It's been done, so come up with some hybrid game.
I mean, that is one of the reasons I like watching GAR, is because it does remind me of AFL, which is literally, this is what happens when you put convicts in a field and give them a ball. It's going to be a lot of blood and a lot of sport. It's going to be extremely entertaining. You're not going to want to play it, though.
No, I remember when the Aussies came over to Ireland. When was it? Must have been 10 years ago, and they just came over to beat the hell out of the Irish guys in the international rules, and that was the end of that for a couple of years, I think, wasn't it?
I think it was ended. I know there's a lot of amateur teams that still play it. It's not played on a professional level, but there's a lot of guys I know of back in Australia who still play amateur internationals. In particular, your Irish and your Welsh expats in Australia heading over. They see Aussie rules. The Irish are listening, oh, it's GAR. The Welsh thinking, oh, it's kind of like rugby, but it's seen something in Ireland, and they all kind of come together. So I think there's an international rules international league in Melbourne where they've got about I think they've got 32 teams of just various different countries that have expats in Australia, and they've got like teams of 7
Nice.
where you can have Ireland, Australia, Wales, Scotland. Then you've got Germany, Belgium, Canada. I think Zimbabwe's got a team in it. All amateur, but it's fascinating to watch. If you ever go to Australia, definitely try and check out a game because it's really insane. It's fantastic.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah.
All right. One more question. I think am I gonna go with NFL again?
Go for it.
Which of the following is not part of an on-field professional football uniform? Is it a helmet, shoulder pads, knee pads, or a jacket?
Jacket.
Yeah, it's a jacket. You do not need to wear a jacket. You got to wear everything else, but you don't need to wear a jacket. And I can understand that. If you're cold enough to need a jacket, then you're not moving about enough, and you need to think again.
Yeah, for sure. On the sidelines, wear your jacket.
Oh yeah, definitely. So, Sean, you scored. I think you scored every single. You got every single question right, which means you were
the World Cup one.
That one was no, you got that right. That was a bonus point.
Ah, yeah.
I think I mentioned that was a bonus point, which means that you are currently. There's no ladder. I've not put this up, but you are currently in the lead for most amount of quiz questions, best answers. Some of which involve rugby, some of which involve whiskey, some of which involve random questions. But congratulations.
Thank you. Do I get a prize?
What? Say you there?
Do we get a prize at the end? A medal? Thank you.
Looks like you were blessing me, that was weird. I'll make sure to get some type of Some Whiskey Bloke rugby trivia question medal or award sheet together, and I'll send it to you.
Thanks.
But in the meantime, we'll finish up in a second, but just to let people who are watching live and who are watching later on, is there anywhere we can continue watching Sean Scully? Anywhere we can continue learning about Clonakilty?
Yeah, so for me personally, I suppose I tried to post a bit on Twitter. It's at Sean Scully Clon. So that'll be kind of showing what I'm doing over here in Portland. Keep in touch with the US side. We've designated US Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram profiles, and the same for Ireland. So just give Clonakilty a quick search on any of the platforms, and you'll find us.
All right, excellent. Is there anything else you'd like to say to the people watching, the people at home?
Not really. I think I've said it all. Maybe just stay safe, I suppose, once everything's back to normal and we can freely move around the place. Come down to Clonakilty, come down and see the distillery, pop out to the Gallea Lighthouse, have a drink in the barley fields where we grow our own barley, and yeah, we're looking forward to seeing everyone. And also, thanks very much, Marcus, for having me.
No, it was absolutely fantastic to have you on. Thank you, Shamini, as well. Slanshava to you as well. It's been fantastic to have you on, and thanks so much for taking the time out of your day. And we're sorry you couldn't drink, but hopefully tonight you can get a couple into you.
For sure. There's always time later on.
All right. So, everyone, I've been Some Whiskey Bloke. This has been Sean Scully from Clonakilty. We loved having you on, and thank you once again. So, yeah.
See you guys.